All right, Journey of Souls. I know I haven't read in a while, but I attune myself to the creative impulses that seek to dwell in me, through me, and as I read to you today. Let the divine give you wisdom and understanding. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. All right. I acknowledge that love and wisdom are what helps grow us. It helps shift us and it helps move us into evolution. Not everybody is going to be on that same plane of growth and expansion. And having unconditional love for each other allows us to grow at our own pace. The reason why we were given feelings, and I am having a beautiful day, Ruby Redbone. I am having a beautiful, beautiful day. I decided to come on here because I've got some errands that I've got to run later. I told my daughter I wasn't going to do any lives, but I decided I forgot I have to read. I haven't done it in a while, so I need to get it going again, because this is not only for my growth and my expansion, but for others. And the divine said, go ahead, I got you. So here we go. Journey of Souls. And if you remember where we left off, it's Michael Newton, PhD. He does past life regressions, and he found that he could go deeper to the superconsciousness, which is the realm of the souls and how they move in and out of human the human experience, taking on a human incarnation. So how they leave one human as the human leaves this existence, and how it moves and goes back to the divine, and how it handles its interpretation of its human existence, and then how it moves on to, if it decides, how it moves on to its next human incarnation. And you take what resonates, leave what doesn't. This is his interpretation of the information that was given to him through his clients that were put under that underwent or kind of undergo that process. All right, so take what resonates. So we're on I believe it's called chapter 9, case 21. All right, so before we start case 21, he gives a synopsis. He says, soul member networks, by the use of criticism and acclaim as each strives towards common goals. Some of the best help I am able to give my clients comes from information I receive about their soul group. Spiritual groups are a primary means of soul instruction. Learning appears to come as much from one's peers as from the skill of their guides who monitor the groups. So remember, he believes that as the souls check in with their the higher beings, as they go back to merge with the divine, they can. And it's infinite possibility that they merge back as in groups to share information of what they found out from their last human incarnation, what they found, that if they found that they got all the information they needed, or if they ran into some spiritual hiccups of understanding the process, and if they want to try again. Right. So then he says, now he helps. He says, in the case which follows, my client has finished reliving his past life as a Dutch artist living in Amsterdam. He died of pneumonia at a young age in 1841, about the time he was gaining recognition from his painting. We have just rejoined, or he has just rejoined the spiritual group when his subject burst out laughing. Okay, so the subject is put under, and the transition from one life experience into this new subject that's asking questions about the life that he's having now. He gets Dr. M gets to ask questions to the higher being or soul that is his client about how he went from how the soul, that soul that he has, went from one incarnation to another. What happened in between there? Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Okay, and welcome in for Sora, Berna. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Crate, Queen Artemis. Self-love is the best love. Jane, Zora, yours truly, Nicole. Oh, I love that. Yours truly, Nicole. Welcome in. Stay around for a little bit if you like the reading. Share it with others. So case 21. Dr. N, and remember, that's Dr. Newton. He just shortens his name, right? And this is the spiritual conversation that he has with the soul. Dr. N says, "Why are you laughing?" And S, the subject, or what they call the soul, says, "I'm back with my friends and they are giving me a hard time." Dr. N says, "Why?" S says, "Because I'm wearing my fancy buckled shoes and the bright green velvet jacket with yellow piping down the sides. I'm flashing them my big floppy painter's hat." Dr. N says, "They are kidding you about projecting yourself wearing these clothes?" S says, "You know it. I was so vain about clothes, I cut a really fine figure as a artist in Amsterdam Cafe Society. I enjoyed this role. I played it well. I don't want it to end. Thank you for the hearts. Ashe, ashe, ashe." Dr. N said, "What happened?" The subject said, "My old friends are around me and we are talking about the foolishness of life. We ribbed each other about how dramatic it all is down there on earth and how seriously we all take our lives." Dr. N says, "You and your friends don't think it's important to take life on earth seriously?" And subject S says, "Look, Earth is one big stage play. We all know that." And Dr. N says, "And your group is united in this feeling?" Let me turn the page. S says, "Sure, we see ourselves as actors in a gigantic stage production." Dr. N says, "How many entities are in your particular cluster group in the spiritual world?" S says, with a pause, "Well, we work with," and another pause, "some others, but there are 5 of us who are close." Dr. N says, "By what name do they call you?" And S says, with a pause, "Lim. No, that's not right. Alim. Alum. That's me." Dr. N says, "All right, Alum, tell me about your close friends." And S says, "Norcross, he is the funniest. At least he is most boisterous." And Dr. N says, is Norcross the leader of your group? No, he just is the loudest. We all are equal here, but we have our differences. Norcross is blunt and opinionated. S says, or N, Dr. N says, really? Then how would you characterize his earth behavior? S says, oh, as being rather unscrupulous, but not dangerous. Dr. N says, who is the quietest and the most unassuming member of your group? And S says, quizzical. How did you guess? It's Viola. Vilo. Vilo. Dr. N says, does this attribute make Vilo the least effective contributor to the member of the group? And S says, where did you get that idea? Vilo comes up with some interesting thoughts about the rest of us. Dr. N says, could you give me an example? S says, in my life in Holland, the old Dutch couple who adopted me after my parents died, they had a beautiful garden. Vilo reminds me of my debt to them, that the garden triggered my painting to see life as an artist, and what I didn't do with my talent. Welcome in. Welcome in. What I didn't do with my talent. Dr. N says, does Vilo convey any other thoughts to you about this? And then with a sad tone, or having a vibrational sadness, S says, that I should have done less drinking and strutting around and painted more. That my art was reaching the point of touching people. And in parentheses, the subject pulls his shoulders back. But I wasn't going to stay cooped up painting all the time. Dr. N says, do you have respect for Vilo's opinion? And with a deep sigh, S says, yes, we know he is our conscience. Dr. N says, so what do you say to him? S says, I say, innkeeper, mind your own business. We were having fun too. Dr. N says, Vilo was an innkeeper? S says, yes, in Holland. Engaged in a business for profit, I might add. Dr. N says, do you feel this was wrong of Vilo? S says, being very contrite, no, not really. We all knew he took losses to help those poor people on the road who needed food and shelter. His life was beneficial to others. Welcome in. Dr. N says, I would guess... I need to take a moment. Let me take a moment. Grab my water. Stay hydrated with me. Dr. N says, I would guess telepathic communication makes it hard to sustain your arguments when the complete truth is known about everyone. And he asks that as a question. S replies, yes, we all know Vilo is progressing. And then S says, damn. Dr. N says, does it bother you that Vilo may be advancing faster than the rest of you? S says, yes, but we have had such fun. Dr. N says, what will happen to Vilo? And S says, remember, S is the soul of his client, and this client is under, hypnosis. S says, he is going to leave us soon. We all know that. To have association with the others who have also gone. Dr. N says, how many souls have left your original group? Alam. And Alam is the soul's name in the vibration of what you might call heaven, or I call the realm of absolute. S says, with a long pause, and then ruefully says, oh, a couple have moved on. We will eventually catch up to them, but not for a while. They haven't disappeared. We just don't see their energy as much. Dr. N says, name the others of your immediate group for me besides Vilo and Norcross. And S says, brightening up, Dubris and Tremaine, or Trinane. Trinian. Now those two know how to have a good time. Dr. N says, what is the most obvious identifying characteristic of your group? S says, adventure, excitement. We all have some pioneer types around here. Debris just came off of a wild life as a sea captain, and Norcross was a free-willing trading merchant. Welcome in. A free-willing trading merchant. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I thought that was going to come out in a sneeze. S goes on to say, we live life to its fullest because we are talented at taking what life has to offer. Dr. N says, I'm hearing a lot of self-gratification here, alum. S says, and what's wrong with that? Our group is not made of shrinking violets, you know. Dr. N says, what's the story on Trinian's past life? S says very boisterously, he was a bishop. Can you believe that? What hypocrisy. And Dr. N says, in what way? S says, what self-deception, Norcross, Dubris, and I tell him, I tell Trinian his choice to be a churchman had nothing to do with goodness, charity, or spirituality. Dr. N says, what does Trinian's soul mentality project to you in such defense? S says, he tells us he gave solace to many people. And Dr. N says, what do you, Norcross and Debris, tell him in response? S says, that he is going soft. Norcross tells him he wanted money and otherwise he would have been a simple priest. Ha! That's telling him, and I'm saying the same thing. You can guess what Debris thinks of all that. And Dr. N says, no, tell me. That Trinian picked up a large city with a rich cathedral, spilling a ton of money into Trinian's fat pockets. Dr. N says, and what do you tell Trinian yourself? Oh, I'm attracted to the fancy robe he wore, bright red and finest of cloth, his bishop rings, which he loved, and all that gold and silver around. I also mentioned his desire to bask in adullam about his flock. Trinian can hide nothing from us. He wanted an easy, cushy life where he was well fed. Welcome, Brad. Dr. N asked S, or the soul, does he try to explain his motivation for choosing this life? And S says, yes, but Norcross reproaches him. He confronts Trinian on seducing a young girl in the vestry. Yes, it actually happened. So much of providing solace for parishioners. We know Trinian for who he really was in that rogue. How are you doing, my friend? I hope all is well. Thank you for joining me on this reading. I'm reading right now Journey of Souls by Michael Newton. Dr. N says, and how do you know Norcross and Debris feel about Trinian now? S says, we think he is trying to follow Vilo as a advancing soul, but he has failed. His pious intentions just didn't work for him. Dr. N said, Alam, you sound rather cynical about Trinian's attempt to improve himself and make changes. Tell me honestly, how do you feel about Trinian? S says, oh, we are just teasing him after all. And Dr. N says, your amusement sounds as if you're scornful over what may have been Trinian's good intentions. S says sadly, you're right. We all know that. But you see, Norcross, Debris, and I, well, we don't want to lose him from the group too. So Dr. N says, what does Philo say about Trinian? S says, he defends Trinian's original good intentions and tells him that he fell into a deep trap of self-gratification during this life in the church. Trinian wants too much admiration and attention. So he's basically saying that, through that basic in his past life, the soul's past life, he was unawares or sleep or unconscious to the higher calling, but he got caught up in some of the lower polarities. That's all the soul, the body, mind, and soul got caught up in that. And that soul lived that life and thought it was the life that thought that the lower polarities was all there was. It was just an experience. And then when the soul left that physical experience, that soul brought that story back to merge it with the divine. No wrong or right to it. Just a expression or an experience or a story that soul brought in to put into the book of knowledge, or the great hall of library, or whatever you would like to call it. Okay, many names for it. So then Dr. N says, forgive me for passing judgment on your group, Alam. Allum is the name of this soul. But it seems to me this is something you all want, except perhaps Philo. And S says, hey, Philo can be pretty smug. Let me tell you, his problem is conceit, and Debris tells him that in no uncertain terms. Dr. N says, and does Philo deny it? S says, no, he doesn't. He says at least he's working on it. So these are the souls having a vibrational conversation with each other about where they've been, what they've done, and it's like they're being honest with each other. It's not about tit for tat. It's what you learned, what you did, how you did it, the experience of it all, and then to surrender it to the divine, to the great hall of the library, and then come to a decision when they're ready to start a new life path and how they got there, right? So Dr. N is giving you his best interpretation of what these souls are sharing with him. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. For me, it helps me place how I feel with my soul when my soul is talking internally to me vibrationally. Whether it's my soul speaking in light language or whether my soul is having a conversation with my ego. It helps me understand it. Okay, so okay. So let me keep going. This is a long conversation that he has with client 21. Hold on. I just want the divine wants to find out where we're going to let go. So Dr. N, because, sometimes Dr. N can ask very short questions, and the client conversation with the soul will be short, or it will be long. It depends. It's okay for however long you want to stay. If you find it's not your cup of tea, it's okay. Dr. N says, who among you is the most sensitive to criticism? And S says, oh, I guess it would be Norcross, but it's hard for all of us to accept our faults. Dr. N says, level with me, Alam. Does it bother the members of your soul group when things can't be hidden from the others? Well, all of your shortcomings in your past lives are revealed. S says, we are all sensitive about it, but not morbid. There is a great understanding among us. We want to give artistic pleasure to people and grow through the meaning of art. So what did I do? I ran around the Amsterdam canals a lot at night and got caught up in the fun and the games. My original purpose was pushed aside. That's all. The original intention that our souls come to be involved in as a human incarnation sometimes doesn't get done because we're in a deep kind of sleep, and we're experiencing body and mind only, right? That's all. We're veiled. The higher being is veiled, so it doesn't get to do maybe its whole intention. So, but it still exists. It still has life. It may not be the purpose that it came and intended. It may not ever have an awakening event, but it's still living life. It's still activating light quotient for Earth consciousness and humanity to evolve, to shift and evolve. And when it gives up life in one human incarnation and travels back to merge back with the divine to check in, it gets to decide if it wants to do another human incarnation. It gets to decide if it wants to take that same intention and try it again. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Let me see. That's where I'm at in the moment of allowing my soul to talk to my ego. Yeah, it's like being a fly on the wall of consciousness, of the consciousness within you, listening to your higher being or your soul, have a conversation with that vibration called your ego. Because your ego travels between your consciousness and your subconsciousness, and it gives you information, usually based on the past, and it doesn't know how to help you discern it. It knows how to give you the basis of what you know before when it's presenting to you what a situation and a circumstance of how you view your outside world. And then what it does is your ego goes back and travels through your past and gives you vibrational files of what you've done in the past when situations or circumstances come around to you. But it gives you it to you in a two-dimensional judgment of what happened back then. Now, if your soul is still veiled or in coma state, then your soul usually your soul doesn't get to help you discern it, right? But as soon as your soul starts being unveiled, if you're bold enough to go into that depth and start unveiling situations and circumstances that are keeping it comatose, and actually allowing yourself to feel things that keep you veiled. It means that you have to feel it. You have to go through the emotion of it, and then learn how to surrender it and let it go, and then call up something that will attach yourself to a thought process that will help your higher being understand what you need, what you want, what you desire, and how to help you present it to yourself. Then you become a little bit more triune. For me, triune means that your body, your body, your mind, and your higher being or your higher self is now collaborating with you to have this human experience. But sometimes that doesn't always happen, right? So Dr. N says, if you admit all this to the group, what kind of feedback do you get? For example, how do you and Norcross regard each other? Now, these are two souls regarding each other based in vibrational and telepathic connection. Not like a human having a connection with another human. This is the souls talking through the body that's under hypnosis, using their words and Dr. Newton taking in the information that these souls are giving him, and so you get to take what resonates and what not, because he's definitely taking what resonates for him and trying to understand it and writing this book. It does not mean that everything in this book is going to be for your highest and greatest good, because you are authentic, and you are unique, and you are an individual, right? So Norcross points out, S says, Norcross often points out how I hate to take responsibility for myself and others, as that entity that this soul was. All right. With Norcross, it's wealth. He loves power, but we are both selfish, except that I was more vain. Neither of us get gold stars. So it's when they're talking to each other, although it may sound like judgment to Dr. Newton, The souls are saying, we know this about each other. We've seen what we went through in that human incarnation. This is why we're here in these groups, and we're vibrationally expanding on it and putting it in the great library, giving it, downloading it to the divine that is and was them as they were in physical form. And the reason that Dr. N can do this is because he found out that he can do the past life regression, and he found out that he could go beyond just unconsciousness, that he could go to the super consciousness, which is the realm of where the souls move about to go from one incarnation to go home and then to take another incarnation. You can decide if it's for you or not for you. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. That's why Dr. N is having this conversation. That's why Michael is having this conversation. This book is called Journey of Souls by Michael Newton, PhD. Okay? Okay, so Dr. N says, how does debris fit into your group with his faults? And S says, that's the soul of his client, says he enjoys controlling others by leadership. That was who Norcross was as his previous incarnation. He is a natural leader, more than the rest of us. He was a sea captain, a pirate, one tough individual. You wouldn't want to cross him, right? Dr. N says, was he cruel? S says, no, just hard. He was respected as a captain. Dubris was merciless against his opponent in sea battles, but he took care of his own men. Then Dr. N says, you have told me that Vilo assisted people who were in need on the road, but you haven't said much about the positive side of your lives. Is anyone in your group giving any gold stars for unselfish acts? S intently says, there is something else about debris. And Dr. N says, what is that? S says, he did one outstanding thing. Once during heavy seas, a sailor fell off the mast into the ocean and was drowning. Debris tied a line around his waist and dove off the deck. He risked his life and saved a shipmate. Dr. N says, when this incident is discussed in your group, how do you all respond to debris? S says, we praise him for what he did with admiration in our minds. We came to the same conclusion that none of us could match this single act of courage in our lives. Now that's based off of how they viewed their past life. Souls get to view their past life because they get to seek if they want to try again with the intention that they intended to do when they want to go into human form. They have intention too, right? Dr. N says, I see, yet Vilo's life at the inn, feeding and housing people who could not pay him, may represent acts of unselfishness for a longer term, or therefore is more praiseworthy. And S says, granted, we give him that, and then S laughs. He gets more gold stars than debris. Dr. N says, do you get any strokes from the group for your past life? And then S takes a pause. I had to scramble for patrons to survive as a painter, but I was good to people. It wasn't much. I enjoyed giving pleasure. My group recognized I had a good heart. Dr. N said, Alanam, do you believe your criticism for each other is always constructive? And S says, yes, sure. There is no real hostility. We have fun at each other's expense. I admit that, but it's just a form of acknowledgement of who we really are and where we should be going. Dr. N says, is any member of your group ever made to feel shame or guilt about their past life? S says, there are those are human weapons. All right. Are we about to welcome official Sexy Spirit TV? Welcome, abundant blessings, gorgeous goddess. You are a gorgeous goddess. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am reading Journey of the Souls. So Dr. N says, well, let me approach your feelings as a soul in another way. Do you feel safe getting feedback from one of your group members more than others? S says, no, I don't. We all respect each other immensely. The greatest criticism comes from within ourselves. Dr. N says, do you have any regrets for your conduct in any past life? S says, with a long pause, yes. I feel sorry if I have hurt someone and then have everyone here know all about my mistakes. But we learn. Welcome, Brian. But we learn. Dr. N says, and what do you do about this knowledge? S says, we talk amongst ourselves and try to make amends the next time. Dr. N says, from what you've told me earlier, I had the idea that Norcross and debris might be releasing some pent-up feelings over your own shortcomings by dumping on each other. S says, thoughtfully. He takes a pause and thoughtfully says, we make cynical remarks, but it's not like being human anymore. Without our bodies, we can take criticism with little differently. We see each other for who we are. Without resentment or jealousy. Dr. N says, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I just wonder if all the flamboyance exhibited by your group might indicate underlying feelings of unworthiness. Did you just hear that? Dr. N took his human thought patterns and said, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Yet he was, right? You heard that, right? I did. Welcome, Patrice. Glorious rising. S says, oh, that's something else again. Yes, we do discourage as souls, and we feel unworthy about our abilities, but meet the confidence placed in us to approve. Dr. N says, so while you have self-doubts about yourselves, it's okay to make cynical remarks about each other's motivations. S says, of course, but we want to recognize be recognized by one another for being sincere in working in our individual programs. Sometimes self-pride gets in the way and we just use each other to move past it. So even souls are moving past their last experience as they merge back with the divine. But they don't do it with malice. They according to Dr. Newton, they just have these, they have fun with each other. But when he was perceiving how the souls were talking to each other, he put human perceptions on it. I am in receipt of your unconditional love, and I hope this room is in receipt of it as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I love all your videos, Patrice, with your modeling of your clothes. So gorgeous and grand. Thank you so much. That made me smile. Whew. Okay. Right. So Dr. N says in the next passage of dialogue, he introduces another spiritual phenomenon related to the group healing. And he says, I have heard a number of variations about this activity which are supported by the interpretations of case 21. You are so welcome. I feel the love. Ooh, I feel the love. So Dr. N says, now, Alam, and remember, the soul that he's talking to is Alam, A-L, which Dr. Newton spells A-L-L-U-M. He says, now, Alam, as long as we are discussing how your group members relate to each other, I want you to describe the spiritual energy by which you all are assisted in this process. And then Alam, very hesitantly, says, I'm not sure what I can tell you. Dr. N says, think carefully. Isn't there another means by which your group is brought into harmony with each other, with intelligent energy? And then Alam takes a long pause. Ah, you mean from the cones. And Dr. N says, cone is a new word to me. I don't know I'm on the right track. Yes, cones. Explain what you know about them relative to your group. And then Alam takes a slow pause and says, well, the cones do assist us. And Dr. N says, please continue and tell me what the cone does. I think I have heard about this before, but I want your version. So Alam says, it's shaped to go around us, you know. Dr. N says, shaped in what way? Try to be more explicit. And Alam says, it's a cylinder, very bright. It is above and all around us. The cone is small at the top and wide at the bottom. It fits all over all of us like getting under a great white cap. We can float under the cone in order to use it. Dr. N says, are you sure this isn't the shower of healing you experience right after you return to the spirit world? And Alam says, oh no, that was more individual purification to repair earth damage. I thought you knew. And Dr. N says, no, I didn't know. I want you to explain how the cone is different from the shower of healing. S says, the top funnel energy, the top funnels energy down as a waterfall in spreading circles or circle around us, and allows us to really concentrate on our mental sameness as a group. Dr. N says, and what do you feel when you are under this cone? S says, we feel all our thoughts being expanded, then drawn up and returned back with more knowledge added. Dr. N says, does this intelligent energy help your unity as a group in terms of more focused thought? And Alam says, yes, it does. I'm going to take a pause. Welcome, Chrissy. Okay, I'm going to take a pause because I'm hydrating. I hope you're hydrating too. Thank you for staying. Dr. N says, being deliberately confrontational. Us humans can do that sometimes, right? So to be frank with you, Alam, I wonder if this cone is brainwashing your original thoughts. After all, the arguments and disarguments between you and the others of your group are what make you individuals. And Alam laughs. We aren't brainwashed. Don't you know anything about the afterlife? It gives us more collective insight to work together. Dr. N says, is the cone always available? And Alam says, it is there when we need it. And Dr. N says, who operates the cone? And Alam says, those who watch over us. And Dr. N says, your guides? And then Alam bursts out laughing. Sato! I think he is too busy traveling around on his circuit. And Dr. N says, what does that mean? We think of him as a circus master, a stage manager of our group. Dr. N says, does Sato take an active part in your group deliberations? And S shakes his head, not really. Guides are above a lot of that stuff. We are left on our own quite a bit, and that's fine. Dr. N says, do you think there is one specific reason for the absence of Sato? And Alam takes a pause. Oh, he probably gets bored with our lack of progress. He loves to show off as the master of ceremonies, though. And Dr. N says, in what way? Alam's chuckling. Oh, to suddenly appear in front of us during one of our heated debates, throwing off the blue sparks, looking like a wizard who is all-powerful moderator. And Dr. N says, a wizard? And that's still laughing. Sato appears in long sapphire blue robes with a tall pointed hat. With his flowing white beard, he looks simply great, and we admire him. Dr. N says, I get the picture of a spiritual Merlin. S says, that's Alam, an oriental Merlin, if you will. Very inscrutable sometimes. He loves making a grand entrance in full costume, especially when we are about to choose another life. He knows how much we appreciate his act. Dr. N says, with all this stage management, I am curious of Sato as much. I am curious if Sato has much emotional connection to your group as a serious guy. And then Alam scoffs at me and says, listen, he knows we are a wild bunch and he plays he plays to that nonconformist himself, but he is also very wise. Dr. N says, is subtle indulgent with your group? Does he seem to limit your extravagance very much? And Alam says, Sado gets results from us because he is not heavy-handed nor preachy. That would sit well with our people. We respect him. And then Dr. N says, do you see Sado, that's their spirit guide, as a consultant who comes only in a while to observe, or an active supervisor? And Avalon takes another pause. He will pop up unannounced to set up a problem for our discussion. He leaves, coming back later to listen to how we might solve the problem. Then Dr. N says again, give me an example of a major problem with your group. Alam takes another pause. Sado knows we identify too much as actors playing a part on Earth. He hits on superficially. He is trying to get us to cast ourselves out from the inside out, rather from the reverse. So Dr. N says, so Sado instruction is serious, but he knows you like to have fun along the way. Yes, that's why Sado is with us. He knows we waste opportunities. He assists us in interpreting the predicament we get into in order to get the best out of us. Dr. N says, from what you have told me, I have the impression that your spiritual group is run as a kind of workshop directed by your guide. Let it be so. Yes, he builds up our morale and keeps us going. So it's nice to know that your soul goes back into a workshop to work out its what it has learned, what it has felt through that human incarnation. It also brings back and discerns the emotions, and it decides if it wants to do another incarnation. It works out what we think is karma related. It works it out, and it says, okay, I want to go back and try again. I want to go back and try out that intention again. Right? I think I got it. I want to go back and try it again. Right? All right, so I am done. Oh, there's one more part. So Michael takes a short paragraph to say, unlike educational classrooms or therapy groups on Earth, I have learned teacher counselor in the spirit world are not confined as group activity leaders on a continuous basis. Although Sato and his students are a colorful family of souls, there is much there that is typical of all cluster groups. A guide leadership is more parental than dictational or dictatorial. In this case, Sato is a directive counselor while not being possessive, nor does he pose a threat to the group. There is warm acceptance of these young souls by this empathetic or empathic guide who seems to cater to their